Thea, your divine feminine educator. And in this video, I want to talk about something that's very near and dear to my heart, which is heart talk. It's about communication. So what I'm going to talk about in this video are your communication challenges. You see, communication is one of the highest forms of, or learning about communication is one of the highest forms of education there is. Now, I'm not talking about work communication, how to, talk to your boss or how to talk to clients, or that's all good. What I'm talking about is communicating with those you love, communicating with those that you feel closest to, those peeps that are in your life that you care for dearly, that are driving you crazy, triggering every single bone in your body. And besides, if you can't communicate at home and create love at home and connection there, you just take those dysfunctions to work, even if you're working at home. So the corporate world actually is filled with the dysfunction that happens from the family of origin. But that's another subject. What I really want to talk about is how can you improve your communication skills with those you love. So I teach this beautiful model called Heart Talk. It's still English, but it's still English. I mean, you can speak it in another language as well. But there's heart talk and there's head talk. What we learned from our family of origin is head talk. That's our colloquial language, and we don't even realize it. In order for you to speak heart talk, there is a journey that you need to take, an understanding and an awareness. You see, heart talk what the beauty of heart talk is that it facilitates your natural and innate ability to care for yourself and others. Head talk facilitates your natural, protective, fearful nature. And that's the truth. That's why it's so important more than ever, to learn this heart talk model. So my dream is that we have a world where hi Shazadi, so nice to see you here. I'm talking about heart talk, and I'm talking about improving your communication skills with those that you love. Oh, I want to read this to you. So this is from a book that is about relationships. It's called More Than Two is the name of the book. But I'm just going to read this to you because it was so beautiful. They had a chapter on communication, and I just want to read this because you got to give yourself a break. When it comes to communication, we have a mountain to climb, peeps. We really, leaders of love, we've got a mountain to climb, but it's a good mountain. It's a mountain that's worth climbing. So here's what this book says. It was the first chapter, and it's from More Than Two. Before we look at some helpful communication strategies, there's something we have to say. You are almost certainly a lousy communicator. When I read that, I was like, oh my God. How can we say that when we don't know you? Because 99% of the people, including ourselves, are lousy communicators. Most of us are exceptionally good at misunderstanding each other. I loved reading this because it really gets us, we have to give ourselves a break, but we also have to understand what's actually happening. So let me repeat that again. Most of us are exceptionally good at misunderstanding each other, misreading each other's tone and intent, and failing to get our point across. But usually we don't realize it. Usually we think we've communicated just fine, and it's the other person who has the problem. Passive and aggressive communicators tend to believe they are direct communicators. And all of us, being humans, are exceptionally good at storytelling, making up tales to explain things we don't understand without even realizing it. So there was a quote, and I don't know the exact words, but basically, the problem with communication is the idea that we thought it has actually happened. You see, we communicate all day long with people, but what we're actually doing, what's actually happening is miscommunication. So it takes a bigger effort and a more committed way of living to become a heart talk person and not a head talk person. One of the things you have to do is just slow down. Because guess what it takes to be a good communicator, to improve your communication skills? Number one, to learn how to be present with another. And number two, to learn how to be in your body. Because if you're going to speak from your heart, you have to get out of your head and learn how to be in your body. So it takes a lot more inner awareness. I call it being a divine feminine communicator. What the heck? So, I mean, that's what I call it. Divine. When you can speak heart talk, you're being a divine feminine communicator because you're communicating from a place of love instead of a place of fear. Thinking that that other person is wrong and you're right, or that you're wrong and they're right and you're confused. How can they be right? What did I do wrong? So heart talk is about you claiming your divine feminine ability to communicate from a place of love and connection and not fear and separation. So let me ask you, think about it for a moment. What are your, oh, thank you. She says, I love your earrings. Thank you, Shazadi. Yes, I love these. This is from one of my favorite yoga teachers. I haven't seen her in a long time because our yoga studios aren't even open, but that's okay. I love these earrings too. So what are your communication challenges? Think about it, really. You know, none of us are perfect. I used to be a yeller. I've really, 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 really worked hard because I have Scorpio rising, so I have that intensity, and I have Sag moon, which is that passion and fire, and I have that air, 3 planets in air, and even more actually, but 3 planets in Libra that make that mind really crazy and busy. So I'll say things before I even, because my mind is so busy, I'll just spit things out. It takes really effort to pull back, go inward, and speak from your core, speak from your center. And guess what? It also takes courage. But let me ask you, what are your specific communication challenges? Do you let your emotions get in the way? Do you let your mind get in the way? Are you telling yourself these big, huge stories instead of communicating with someone that you have a problem with? You've made them out to be a monster in your mind. Have you ever had a situation where you have all these stories going on and then you've come to find out you've actually, those things aren't happening? How much time and energy and effort you've stressed because of all these things, these stories, these big stories that you've told in your mind, in your own little world. Stop hurting yourself like that. You've let your mind run amok. Okay, these are communication challenges we have because we're communicating wrong inside of our head and we're hurting ourselves. Are you a yeller? And not only a yeller, are you a rager? You bottle things up and then they come out in one big burst and you create destruction. Anger, rage is a very destructive force in relationships. But underneath that rage is a more vulnerable feeling, typically fear or sadness. But know that when you are angry, you're actually putting up a wall, and it's time to really hold that anger in compassion and find out what's truly underneath it. It's not a time to lash out. It's a time to go inward and hold that rage and see what's literally underneath it. Do some deep diving, maybe even release that energy with a pillow on the wall, because you'll destroy your relationships with that rage. Maybe you shut down. Maybe you do the silent treatment. Maybe your household has people that do the silent treatment. Maybe you're a victim of silent treatment. Either you're a victim or you're actually doing it, or you both play that game. So how long does that silent treatment last for? Days, weeks, months? Maybe you have a relationship, not in your own household, but maybe you have a relationship where you love that person, but you haven't talked to them in years. Maybe you've had to do that to create healthy boundaries, but that's another subject. Boundaries or barricades? Boundaries are fluid and let love in. Barricades are walls and shut love out. Another strategy, another communication strategy is denial. Oh boy. I was in a relationship where denial, the person I was with used denial, and it was a really nice technique for them in their life, but boy, oh boy, did it drive me crazy. The idea was that if I pretend like it doesn't exist, then it doesn't exist. And it was so clear to me what was, oh my God, I needed to talk about it. But denial was a way to not talk about it. A denial was a way to not deal with it. And I had that scorpionic energy. I could feel it. If you have any Scorpio in your chart, Venus in Scorpio, you're going to walk into a room and you're going to feel the energy. Or there was an argument in the room and then they left and you walk into the room, you're going to feel that energy. A lot of communication happens on an energetic level, but denial is not a healthy communication strategy. Not if you want, function and you want connection. But the other end of it is confronter. So, hey, this is how I feel about this. So denial is on one end of the spectrum, and confronting is on the other end. A confronter, somebody that's up in your face, telling you what you're doing wrong or how they feel about this. That doesn't work either. That puts the other person on the defensive. Denial, confronter, controller. All of us have these controlling strategies to try to control our world. Some people are super hyper vigilantly clean, meticulously clean in their house. And I love cleanliness is, what's the saying? Cleanliness is close to godliness, right? Or however the saying is. And I wish I had that obsession. I wish I was a cleaner person. I'm not too, I've really worked hard to become more clean and picking things up. But when it becomes very meticulous and anal retentive, that actually comes from your childhood, if that's how you were able to control your environment, especially if you come from a family where you didn't know whether your parent was going to be inebriated, drunk or not, a rager or not, present or not, available or not. We created these controlling mechanisms to control our environment. Some of us turn to food. There's all kinds of different obsessive compulsive behaviors that we have developed as children that we bring into our adulthood to try to control our world. This is a time, especially with what's happening right now, we are out of control. What's happening is a global transformation. And there's a part of us where we need to step up and be present and show up for the party, the transformation. But there's another part of us that needs to just surrender and let go and be on the roller coaster ride. Know that we're divinely belted in and put our hands up and say, I will flow with it. So it's this balance of strength and letting go and knowing when to do either of those two. This is not an easy time, but your soul showed up. Your soul wanted to be here. Passive aggressive behavior is another communication challenge. Afraid to speak the truth is another communication challenge. People pleaser is another communication challenge. The disease to please because you don't want to rock the boat. So we've developed all of these strategies of communication, or rather, I would like to say non-communication or miscommunication, and we've learned them from our family of origin. And I want to let you know they are deeply, deeply ingrained in our programming. That's why you need support to learn this new model of communication. And you need to make the people in your life your practice partners. So tonight, I am going to be doing my Leaders of Love weekly women's support circle. The link to the Leaders of Love is in the live, and so you can join the group, and so that you can join our circle tonight. It's at 6 p.m. PST from 6 to 7. I'm going to be covering 5 communication patterns that we have that keep us disconnected from those we love. You know, knowledge is power. And when you start becoming aware of these ingrained patterns that create disconnect with those you love, then you can bring the light of consciousness and awareness to it. And you can shift those patterns. You see, if you want more love and connection with those you love, all you have to do is shift the dance. Because every disagreement, every challenge in relationship, believe it or not, was co-created. You're part of the dance. If you have a dance of anger and resentment and disconnect and frustration with those you love, you're part of that dance. And guess what? You have the ability, the beauty of it is that you have the ability to change that dance. And so now, if you're in this dance with those you love that creates, tension and dysfunction and resentment and walls and silent treatment and yelling, all you have to do is say, I'm going to go dance over here. And then when you start dancing over here, that person is like, there's nobody to dance with. Now, I'm going to say when you start dancing over here, right? Because then you're inviting them to dance with you in a whole new way. Boy, oh boy, that's when life becomes really fun and juicy. And I can show you how. All right. It's all about communicating to create connection. It's about you committing to becoming a heart talker, not a head talker. A head talker is not so fun. A heart talker is juicy. Come tonight, click the link in this live and join our Leaders of Love group. There you'll get the Zoom link, and tonight at 6 p.m. from 6 to 7 p.m. I will talk about 5 inherent patterns that we all do that we can become more aware of so that we can create more love and connection in our relationships. Now is the time for us to come together in our hearts and not separate. All right. If you found this video helpful, please share it on your timeline. Now is the time for us all to open our hearts with the words we choose to speak. All right. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.